NFL Hall of Famer and Super Bowl champion quarterback, and a man who knows LaVell all too well, played under him and has spent significant time with him and around him. Steve Young joining us on the Deseret First Credit Union Hotline. Steve, emotions are very raw right now, and we are very grateful that you're joining us to discuss the legacy and to celebrate the life of LaVell Edwards. Your reaction initially to the news of his passing today?
Oh boy, I was just driving down to see him. I flew in and I talked to Patty last night. Found out yesterday. I got to be honest with you, Mike just called me to let me know that he had passed, and my friend Jim Herman had let me know. I was driving down to see him. Oh well, I'm got to transition here. I was just hoping to see him. I don't know. I feel like, I know that he's been struggling the last 6 months, and when I've seen him, and I knew that in those struggles that you don't win those over time, and I understand that, and I think people are at peace. And I talked to Patty yesterday, and she felt very much at peace in the family, and I was grateful for that. I understand that some guys got in yesterday to see him, and I'll have to talk to them and see, kind of live through them on that. But for LaVell, I gather myself here. I think more than anything, he had the ability, and I think it was a gift from God, to see people better than they see themselves, to see their potential, to see through some of the flaws and things at the moment that people might be distracted by. He had this ability to, he'd sit in his chair and lean back, and it was almost like he fell asleep. But I used to think he did fall asleep, but I think he was just kind of gathering inspiration, and then he'd have a vision for you. You'd have a vision for what you could be and where you could go, and it was always more than you ever believed. And it happened to me over and over and over again. And I know it happened to everybody else because it's a gift. And it's the greatest gift for a football coach, because football is the ultimate team sport, the ultimate people sport. And when you have a coach like that, it's just, for football, it's revolutionary, right? Because it's such an archaic coach sport. LaVell was just ahead of his time. He's just a unique person, and I love him. I love him like my father, my surrogate father, just everything that you could imagine. And it meant so much to so many of us. And so this is our time to celebrate. We lived a phenomenally successful, rich, spiritually rich life. And talking to Patty was really helpful last night. Just talking about her 64 years with him. And I think she mentioned, he helped raise me. And I said, well, Patty, that's what marriage is. You do it to each other, refine each other, prune each other. And so everything you could ever want from somebody you got from LaVell. And dang, I was just headed down there. Just found this out. So I don't know. I guess I'm on radio, so I shouldn't just ramble.
You can ramble all you want, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, Steve, we had Blaine Fowler on just a couple moments ago, and he was talking about just that friendship, and you referenced that, how LaVell had the personality to welcome, and he was just welcoming to everybody. And obviously, we know that not only from a football perspective, he meant a lot to you as a person. Is there a specific memory that maybe illustrates your relationship best?
Yeah, a couple. One of them probably is redundant for some people, but when my senior in high school, my trip out, I don't think he intended to give me a scholarship. It wasn't on the list. And I think that that kind of experience where he met with me as I was leaving. And I think he had a sense that he wanted me here. And he offered me a scholarship, and that changed everything. And the other one that really I think about is I was in Georgia, one of my first times I'd started after Jim McMahon had broken 73 NCAA records, and then here I come. We're halftime. I'd thrown 5 interceptions, I think, maybe more. And I thought he'd bench me. I thought for sure he'd bench me. Of course he'd bench me. I mean, my gosh. who throws 5 interceptions in a half in one of the biggest games in BYU history in Athens, Georgia. And at halftime, he turned to me and he said, "You're all right." And I didn't know how to react any other way. I said, "Yeah, I'm great. I'm fine." Even though I knew I wasn't so good. And he says, "Well, then stop. Quit doing that, and you'll be fine." And through that, and it was one of those times where any other coach would bench this young kid that had just met the whole game in one of the biggest games in BYU history, and he was just as calm as anything and just made sure I was okay. And I just knew that it was going to be all right. I didn't know it was going to be all right, but he knew it was going to be all right. And I guess that's what I mean, is that you get this sense from him that it is going to be all right. And I needed that. I mean, I needed that. And everyone who played for him, and Jim needed it. Robbie needed it. Ty needed it. Everybody got that from LaVell. And, we can all talk about all the great experiences and unique, times and funny, LaVell, is one of the great sense of humors ever. But what he really did was he saw ahead. He was a visionary. He saw ahead for each person. I'm telling you, for each guy, it was a gift that he could look into the future and see what you could be. And then he was calm about it. And then you had confidence about it too. Even though you didn't believe, there's no way that he's right on this. And then it ended up being right. So of all the things you hear all day, and they're all true, they're all wonderful, that's the thing that's the gift that he had that I think made the experience so personal for everybody. That's why you're going to hear all day from all the guys that played with him how personal it was, because it felt just for you. There's thousands and thousands of guys that feel that way. That's unique. That's one, you don't find that. That's a very rare human being. And so, dang. All right. I gotta, oh well.
Steve Young with us on BYU Sports Nation, reminiscing about LaVell Edwards and the impact he had, not just on the football field and football players while they were playing the game, but what he did for them off the field. Steve, as you go forward and we look ahead now to what will be a sure celebration of LaVell Edwards, what kind of outpouring do you anticipate will come for him and will happen in remembrance of LaVell?
I mean, BYU fans and really college football fans. I mean, I go to ESPN. I'll run into people, and everyone loved him. Everyone loved him from all over the country. Coaches, people who are associated with television. Anyone that ran into him had just loved him, and so they're always asking about him. And it wasn't just BYU people; it was everybody. And how's Coach? How's he feeling? How's he? So what you're going to get is a lifetime of interactions, like Johnny Appleseed, with just throwing seeds of goodwill and positivity and faith for almost 100 years. It's going to be a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think for BYU fans, it's generation of, I run into this with the 49ers because from 80 to 2000, the 49ers had this wonderful run that people just grasp a hold of. And for BYU, we have the same thing. We have this run of BYU football from really mid-70s to 2000 almost, that everyone, that's a lot of people, a lot of generations of BYU football fans that were impacted personally because they were fans of BYU, of the success and the experiences. Oh, I remember Texas A&M game with I remember, and so that's going to happen for everybody. We're all going to go through this tour, this spectacularly wonderful, rich tour of all of our memories of when LaVell was coaching BYU. So, I guess we better put our seatbelts on. It's going to be quite a ride.
Steve Young with us on BYU Sports Nation, talking about LaVell Edwards and the news that he has passed away at the age of 86. He once joked that a reporter wrote of him, I'm actually a happy guy, I've just never told my face. What will you remember about LaVell's dry sense of humor and his overall good nature in terms of that stern look on his face on the sideline?
I belied who he was. he had a sense of humor at the most odd and difficult times. He used it. He used it as a tool. I guess that's what everything he had. He used as a tool, and he used his sense of humor as a tool all the time. He has some classic jokes he's told 1,000 times, and I've heard them 1,000 times, and they're funny every time because his sense of humor is rich. It's not just cheap. Everything has nuance and layers, and he's quick, and he'd come up with some moment, in the moment, have something funny to say, and you'd like, oh my gosh, that is the funniest thing I can think of. And he had a funny way of looking at situations in life, and so a lot of his pregame speeches were funny to get guys motivated in a unique way. And so on the sidelines, that was unfortunately for him, that was what everybody saw. I don't know I always wondered what he was thinking about because, Coach, you don't say much on the sidelines. What are you thinking about? And he'd have something funny to say about that, but he'd never really tell you. But and he when I played golf with his old buddies, Arnie Farron, and we'd go up to Salt Lake Country Club and play over the years, and he had this little Lauren Monch and guys that it was such a pleasure to be around LaVell and around his friends and around people, and playing golf was so much fun. And so that's the other part of it. I told you kind of the visionary part. There's this other part of him that's just a pleasing, wonderful person. And for football coaches, that was the standard for me. And I found pieces of that in a lot of really great coaches. I was blessed. Mike Holmgren, Bill Walsh, Mike Shanahan, people that just had pieces of LaVell, because it reminded me that was this gold standard. LaVell was the gold standard for coaches.
Steve, speaking of that, you mentioned, there's obviously a quite impressive coaching tree that came from LaVell. You referenced, regardless of where you go, everybody knows LaVell for the person, but they also know what he accomplished as a college football head coach. When you think about everything that he's done in the sport of college football, how do you think he will be remembered in that arena?
He's one of the greats. You can think about, and the thing is that LaVell took over a program that was not well known and left a program that was nationally known. And so there's that part too. There's taking something. You can say Schembechler, but he inherited Michigan, and Woody Hayes inherited Ohio State. LaVell did something that I don't know that you can say many have done. Is taking a program from not obscurity, because we were in the WAC and people knew BYU. It wasn't like it was unheard of, but it to national prominence, to national championships, to Heisman trophies, to all kinds of things that that's rare. That doesn't happen very often. And so when you talk about great coaches of all time, he's in the list of all-time great coaches, but unique because of what I just described, is he took something and grew it and developed it from, and that's not easy to do. And all of us are beneficiaries of his ability to do that. And so you name a coach in college, and LaVell stands with them. And I think they'd welcome him. All those old coaches that I know or met or ever knew, Lou Holtz or anyone else, always looked at LaVell as a compatriot. As somebody that was definitely, in their group and counted in their company, and a lot of the great relationships that we enjoy. The fact that we can be independent, to be honest with you, is because of the seeds that LaVell sowed at ESPN, at the NCAA, throughout. With Nike, with everywhere he went, he was beloved, and because of that, we all benefit from it. And now I get to, myself and others get to kind of bask in his wake. I go and because LaVell treated all these people so well, when I would come along, when I would run into them, I was treated so well because of LaVell, of what he left behind, and the experiences he had. So we all, even today, our experience in trying to be independent, the only reason we can do it is because we're so well regarded in really big circles, national circles, especially the ESPN, to be honest with you.
LaVell Edwards really regulated and directed BYU into becoming a national brand that it is today. I was talking with Steve Young about LaVell Edwards, and I just got this tweet in, Steve, and I imagine we're going to hear a lot more of this. This coming from @ShySoxHawks. He said, LaVell was a big reason I became a BYU fan and a reason that led me to the church. What a sad day. I am crushed right now. But his influence was not just about football, but helping people find a greater purpose in life. And how many guys can say that?
Yeah. And I think Patty said to me yesterday, because I we're talking to her, and she said, "Look, he's fallen into Heavenly Father's arms. It's going to be, everything's fine. You know, this is a celebration. It's as good a life as you can live." And no, I just really love him.
Steve, thank you for the time. I'm sure we'll be discussing LaVell not just today, but for years to come. And you're a good man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, you guys.